Welcome back to character modeling. In the previous lesson, we completed our character's feet, and in this lesson, we're going to move on to the belt. In one of our earlier lessons, we duplicated a curve off the bottom of our NURBS torso, and I've got that selected right here. If it was turned off, go ahead and turn the visibility back on. And we're going to need to shape that. If we look at it, it's following the contour of the bottom of the shirt, and we had just kind of pulled it down a little bit. And we're going to have to shape that to fit on the outside of the character's pants. So we'll need to kind of widen it up a little bit and probably push it back, as well as rotate it a little. Okay, it looks like we'll need to grab some of the individual points on here and pull them out. I'm going to grab that one, as well as this one, and scale that to widen it up a little bit to fit around the pants. Okay. And we're going to need to separate the front here because our belt is going to kind of have a little flap coming off of it. So let's grab our points here. Let's figure out where they're at. Okay, there they are. So I'm just going to pull this one back. There it is. Okay, so let me pull these back over here. It's like this curve here belongs on this side. There we go. So I'm just creating a separation right here. So when we loft this as a polygon object, these do not connect. You want to have a separation here. Okay, so let's come back to object mode and select that. And I think we can probably raise it up just a little bit more. And just get it fitting right around there. Okay, with that selected, I'm going to duplicate it with Control D and then just move it down. This is the width of our belt. And we're going to need to position this a little more back, as well as pull out some of the points here in the front. So I'm going to grab that duplicated curve. It's curve 2, and I'm going to drag it up to the top here next to the other curve. And just grab the points on it and bring those out a little bit with scale. Here we go. And go back to object mode. And we'll probably scale this in just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to select both of these in my outliner. And with them selected, I'm going to come under my Surfaces menu set. And under Surfaces, Loft, I'm going to open up the option box for that and just reset the settings. We're going to loft it as the output geometry as polygons. And we're going to set this to control points and just hit Loft. Okay, and I'm just going to hit 3 on the keyboard and kind of see how it's wrapping around here. So it's a little bit lower on this side. I'm just going to grab some of the vertices and pull them up a little bit. And if you want to do that on yours, if it didn't kind of fit completely around there, this is a good time to make some of those adjustments. Okay. So with that done, just check to make sure we've got our separation here, and we do. Yes, we want that. We're going to grab all the faces on here, so I'm going to drag a marquee around here. We can close this down. And I'm going to go ahead and extrude that. And we'll just pull that out. So this is creating the thickness of the belt. Go back to 1 on my keyboard. I can see it a little bit better. So that was a little bit too thick. Okay. And I'm going to come over here and grab the vertices. Just Q on the keyboard to get out of that. And I'm going to grab these vertices right here, and I'm going to start angling them out Okay. Deselecting those, and I'm just going to pull these out a little bit. Kind of going up a little bit. And probably right about there is good. And then we can grab the faces. Deselecting those. So just the faces on the inside here is what we're after. And we can extrude that. And pull it out. There we go. And we're not going to see this intersection right here, so I'm not going to worry about that. And it looks like we need to kind of grab this edge right here and pull that up. There we go. And grab the faces again. We're going to extrude it a couple more times. Okay. And kind of tuck that back in there. And we can probably roll these down just a little bit, angle them down just a little bit now, and extrude it one last time. And then scale it down, just to round it out there a little bit. And if you want to just grab a couple of the vertices here, pull them out, you can do that, just to help round that out. Okay, so we've got our belt. We're going to have a belt buckle in the front here that's going to cover up this intersection. So let's just come back to object mode, and we'll need to insert a couple edge loops. If we hit 3 on the keyboard, we can see it's getting just a little soft. So let's grab our edge loop tool and put one on the inside here, one out here, as well as this corner, and one down here on the bottom. Okay. And that should be good. Let's hit 3 on the keyboard. Q to get out of that. Back to object mode. Take a look. All right. So we've got our belt. And I'm going to center the pivot on that. Bring it up just a little bit. And I'm going to delete the history and freeze transformations on it. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is create a loop on here, and we can do that a couple of different ways. We can kind of duplicate faces and scale them and size them down. However, we're going to have to do that. We're going to have probably 3 going around here, so we would have to build the 3 of those and then duplicate special them over. So I think what would be better is just build a generic one out of a cube here, and then that way we can just do it once and not spend time kind of repeating the process. So I'm just going to build it in the front here initially, and we're going to scale that down quite a bit, get it pretty thin. About like that. So this is going to fit over the belt, and we'll angle that into place in a moment here. Okay, I'm going to add some loops in here. So towards the top and the bottom, and one in the center. And that center one, I'm going to kind of pull that out a little bit, create a little bit of an angle. Okay, and I'm going to grab the faces, the inside here, top and bottom, and we're going to extrude those out. Just pull them straight out. And let's go into world space, angle them up a little bit. This is going to go kind of up and over our belt. So we'll extrude again, pull that out, extrude one more time, pull that out again, go to world space and angle that in. Okay. So we've got a little bit of an edge here, the top and bottom, that we can kind of smooth those out by scaling them in. and pushing them in as well. So that's going to round that out. And we can even pull these two up, or out rather, just to round that out a little bit more. Okay. So that should work as our belt loops. Let's put our edge loops in here to hold the form a little better. Okay, probably a couple on the end here. All right. And maybe one right there. And here. Okay. If we hit 3 on our keyboard, we can take a look at it. So that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to duplicate this one and go ahead and move it over and get it into position here. And we can turn this one off, just hiding the visibility on it. All right, so we're going to angle that. And looks like it's a little wide, so I'm going to scale mine down. Scale it down just a little bit more. And I can even scale it a little bit this way, I think. Push it in. There we go. Rotate that. Okay, so it's starting to feel like it's about in the right place. Okay. And this one's going to go on the side. There we go. So I'm noticing the belt on mine is sticking out just a little bit here, so I'm going to have to correct that so I can push this in without it intersecting. Right now it's going to intersect the belt. So I'll come back and kind of do that offline. If you have the same problem, you'll need to make that correction as well. So Control D, grab it again, bring it up here to the back. And we'll just put, I think one in the back here should be fine. If you want to do a double one in the back, go ahead and do that. And I sort of got the same problem here with it sort of sticking out, so I'll make those corrections. I could have spent a little bit more time kind of angling my curve before I lofted it. I sort of rushed through that. Okay, so that one's lined up in the back now. All right, and what we can do now is just duplicate special these over so we don't have to reposition everything. So we've got the pivot currently centered around the object. We want to move that over to the center line, the origin. So I'm going to hit Insert on the keyboard, hold down the X key, and just snap that over to the center grid. Hit Insert again to get out of it. And I'm going to get rid of history on it as well as the transformations, just zero that out, and then we can come under Duplicate Special, the -1 in Scale X, copy that over. Let's do the same thing over here. So delete the history, freeze transformations, move the pivot over. So holding down the X key, snap it to the center, and we can duplicate that over now. And there it is. Okay, so I'm going to make some corrections kind of offline on my belt right there. We've still got our curves here that we can get rid of. Let's go back into our outliner and kind of clean things up in here a little bit. So I've got both my curves as well as the belt, which is the lofted surface 1. So with those all selected, just Control selected that other one. I'm going to delete the history on it, and then we can delete those curves. And I'm going to come back to my lofted surface, double click on that and call that belt. Okay, we already deleted the history on that, so that should be good. And you may want to take a moment to go through and kind of clean up some of the history on here. Here's our belt loop. So belt loop 1, just go through and name those. All right. And let's go ahead and make the belt buckle now. I'm going to close this down. And I think for inspiration, I'm going to kind of turn to one of my favorite characters on TV. And if you watch Big Bang Theory, like I do, Howard is one of my favorite characters. So this is kind of Howard's belt collection I found online. There we go. Just kind of click through here. Some of the belts that he's featured on the television show. There's a Superman one, Nintendo, Pac-Man, Planet of the Apes, I think. Kind of like this one right here. It's sort of nice. Sandwich, BLT. Kind of like the shape of this one. I may not use the Green Lantern image in here, the logo. And we've also got this right here. I think I kind of like the simplicity of this oval shape here of the Batman one. We may not use the Batman logo in here. We'll probably come up with something a little bit different. But it's going to be kind of our inspiration. And we can come under Create Polygon Primitives and go ahead and use a cylinder. Okay, so drop that there on the bottom. I'm going to bring it up to the top here and bring it out to the front. And we'll need to rotate that. So 90 degrees in X. Rotate that forward. We do not need all of this resolution on here, so let's bring it down. There's 7. Let's go with 12. That should give us plenty to work with. Okay. And we can scale it back quite a bit and give it this sort of oblong shape. Okay, and let's go ahead and get rid of the caps on here. And I'm going to grab the face on the front. Actually, we can delete the one on the back. We don't need it. Grab the one on the front, and let's go ahead and create that sort of indent that was on there. And we'll just scale that in there. And extrude that again. Push it in. And we could probably just extrude that one more time. Sort of creating a little bit of an edge loop. There we go. So that was just very subtle little scale in right there. And we'll need to quad this off. So let's just come back to object mode and use our split polygon tool. G on the keyboard. And our last one right here. So it quads everything off. And we'll probably need a couple edge loops in here to hold that into place. One down here. I'm going to put this one on the top. And I want to kind of round that out a little bit. So I'm going to just pull it forward. And that's going to round out the top of that. And we'll add a couple more edge loops on the side. So one here and one in the back. Okay. And I'm not sure if our belt buckle bends around the shape of the belly. If it does, we can just put a lattice on there. Let's just kind of place this initially. See if we got our scale right. Probably bring mine down just a little. Here we go. rotate it into place. And I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of curve mine a little bit. I'm just going to drop a lattice on here to do that. And that's under Animation, Create Deformers. There's a lattice. So just drop that on there. And it's got all the resolution kind of going around this way, which we don't need. So I'm going to add some divisions this way, as well as this way, and kind of get rid of these here. We don't really need them. Okay, so I'm going to right mouse click over the lattice and select lattice points. And shift select those sides and start kind of bending it back. Okay, then I'm going to deselect these two rows so we just have the outside ones and bend that back a little bit more. Okay, go back to object mode, grab both of those. You don't need to select the pants or the belt. And we'll come under and just delete the history, and that gets rid of the lattice. Okay, so with that bent now, kind of position that a little better. There we go. And probably have to pull these back just a little. Some of these points right here might need to just get tucked in right there. Okay. So there's our belt with the buckle and belt loops on there. And if you need to make any adjustments like I do, some areas right here where there's some intersection, go ahead and do that. And we're going to come back in the next lesson and begin working on the hand.